Let's get into it. And that's what we call defense for students that finish their studies. And then we call defense in French la soutenance.
La soutenance.
La soutenance.
Wow.
So we say la soutenance, that is the project defense. You know, research is very, very important. So whether you are in French or you're in English or in Russia, any field of the humanities, even in the sciences, you have what we call project defense generally.
Yeah.
So because when you
That's
finish
the
your
Viva.
the Viva, that's correct. The Viva. So when you're done with your project, you go on to the Viva, your presentation. That is when we know you actually did the work.
Yes.
So you are examining. It's an exam on its own. But funny enough, many students don't understand what that means. They don't take it too seriously.
You know, there is this perception, particularly in the humanities.
Yeah.
They believe that, of course, for example, if they will believe that I wrote the work, so why should I come and defend it? But then I think, based on my experience, I think that the work is not complete until you come out and tell us how it is done.
Okay.
Because it goes beyond, you know, the research work goes beyond just writing on paper.
Yeah.
A part of what makes the research complete is your ability to disseminate research objectives, your aims and objectives, and the findings. Your ability to communicate it in simplified form. Because one, you know, of course, research is not just you writing and to keep it. You are trying to solve a societal problem.
Exactly.
So if you have solved the problem and you cannot communicate and tell the world what the problem the gap that you spotted, and the approaches you use to provide solution,
yes,
so then you've done nothing basically.
That's beautiful. So he has set the pace for us now on why you need to do research and why it's important to do defense. But I think there are some things students should know about when it comes to soutenance and defense. There are some basic things lecturers look out for. I remember when I did my internal Viva, I was told by my supervisor then, even at the PhD level, there's not much difference.
No much difference.
There's not much, just some few things you just need to add and adjust. I think the very first thing is you must be able to give us a good background of the study.
Yes.
I will call it l'aperçu général in French. L'aperçu général.
Wow.
The general overview. That's the background to the study. And now, apart from in that particular order, you give us I think you might define the key terms of the topic you are dealing with. Let's say you are dealing with techniques of foregrounding. For example, in the work of so and so and so. You want to know what foregrounding is, what techniques is, and why are you saying techniques of foregrounding? Why that particular author? So that's the background to the study. I think after the background, we have what we call the research gap. We call it la problematique d'étude, problem of the study. Now you tell us, okay, so and so have done this, so and so have done this. They have looked at this writer's work in this perspective. Take, for example, that work. Okay, writers have looked at the works of Alem and Banco, looking at the thematic engagements, looking at the structural issues, looking at issues that have to do with some aspect of narrative. But there's no serious research work. There's scant work. I'm not saying there's none. We don't know everything. So say there's scant work. I say little research that may carry that in this area. Not much has been done.
Those are the words.
Those are the key words you must think those of. So please, you want to know that you're preparing for your defense as a student or undergraduate. Your background, you must emphasize that. Your problem, the gap you are feeling. Then after that, I think the objective follow.
Oh, yeah, objective.
What do you look at
Aim
the
and
objective?
Yeah, you know, one, the aim and objective is just like you going for a particular a task. There's something you have in mind. For example, let's assume, I'm going to use simplified term now, our everyday term. Let's assume you're leaving your house in the morning to go to the market to buy something. Let's assume you want to cook soup. The aim is to cook soup.
Exactly.
Now, as you're going to the market, there are things you need to get. There are basic ingredients that you want to get. Now, you're not just getting the ingredient for any kind of food.
At all?
For a particular soup. So the aim and objective basically guides whatever you are doing. So it makes the work tailored around the particular topic. So you're not going outside. You're not going here. You're not going here. So it gives you a kind of a boundary within which you are trying to approach that
particular aim.
topic. Yeah.
All right. So the aim is to go to the market. The objective is to get the keke, for example. Is to make sure that you are light at the junction.
Yes, the right junction.
The right junction. So that's the objective. So let's bring it to academic terms now. I'm going to pick a topic again, back to the same topic we picked initially. Okay, the aim of that work is to examine techniques of foregrounding in selected numbers of Alem and Banco, where specific objectives include to identify the techniques of foregrounding in the work of the author. That's the first objective. Number two is to be able to explore the techniques. Number two, to identify the dominant techniques. Number three, to see how these techniques function in the work. And finally, we're going to see how these techniques contribute to the overall thematic projection of the entire text.
Yeah.
So that's the objective.
But let me interject. You know, we were taught that the research, the aim and objectives should be in alignment with the research question.
Exactly.
So the research question, or rather the aim and objective, you use one to answer the other. Exactly. One is the question, one is the answer.
Exactly.
So let me ask you, for this particular topic you talked about now,
okay,
you just told us the aim. Can you tell us the research questions?
Okay, the research question for the first one is, what are the techniques in the work? What are the techniques of foregrounding? That's the first question.
Yeah.
Number two, which techniques are dominant in the work? Number three, how do these dominant techniques function in the particular text? And the fourth one, in line with the fourth objective I listed, is how does these techniques of foregrounding that I've identified now contribute to the comprehension of the overall thematic preoccupation of the writer generally? Well, and those are the questions for the research question you can formulate. So each objective must have a research question.
Yes.
And so when you're drawing your questionnaire generally, you must use the objective to draw your questionnaire.
So it must tally. In fact, this one is mathematical. There is no room for creativity.
Not all. It just must be there.
It must be there. Because most times you find that your supervisors and advisors and even the external examiners, these are the things they look out for.
Exactly.
How the conformity with the objective and the research, how it's confirmed. But let me also push further. Let's go to another very important aspect of the research work, which is the research methodology.
Beautiful.
Research methodology and perhaps the
theoretical framework.
So these are very powerful aspects of research that oftentimes people or most students, from my experience, I noticed that students often they juggle the two.
Yeah.
And if you do not get that one correctly, guess what? Whatever you are doing is just more of like
you're just talking.
You're just talking.
Yeah, you don't have a base. At least you are not well structured.
Yes.
I think I've thought about the background, objective, research question.
Sorry, before you go further, before you shift, I want you to talk something to speak on the methodology.
Okay.
For a very topic like this is quite ambitious.
Exactly.
So I want to know what are the methodology?
Okay.
What and what? How is it ethnographic?
Okay.
Is it focus group? Is it interview?
Okay.
Were you on the feed? What and what did you do? Did you interview people?
Beautiful. He's asking because on his own area of research. Now, in humanities generally, when we come to literary studies, we don't really have enough room for questionnaire, except we are doing issues that do with language-based, I want to competence, and my level of phonetics. Now, when it comes to literary studies, we don't do questionnaires and the rest. We apply more of literary analysis and linguistics analysis. So the methodology most of the time we use in French studies called l'explication de texte. We call it close reading in English. Now, close reading is a subset of explication de texte. Explication de texte is like an umbrella, and it encompasses both close reading. But because the English people don't really have something like explication de texte, they just speak close reading. And so for us in French, we use explication de texte. It's a text-based stuff.
Okay, so basically
it's a textual analysis.
You are reading.
So your field is the text. Exactly. Your data are drawn from the text. Your interpretation is based on the text. So that's the methodology then.
Okay. So basically, one can say, without mincing words, one can say that basically the research is a library based.
Exactly.
Now, for example, you can sit with
it's more of a qualitative research, not quantitative.
Yes, so you can sit with materials at the comfort of your reading, your study room, and
you can begin to assemble them. It takes time. It is more of literary reviews.
So you may not need to go to the field and start gathering material.
No. Your field is getting the right text, getting the right data within the text. Because for a particular text, for example, I'll give you a particular text, we call it Vekase. Now that text, you can look at it from different perspectives. And then, as you look at this all right, you're going to find out that what I'm saying will be determined based on the theory and the methodology I'm using.
Okay.
Somebody can pick that same text and deal with translation.
So I think sorry. There's a particular theory like that in literature, literary study. It is called reader response.
Reader response theory.
Yeah. So you as a reader, you are engaging the text based on your understanding,
your perception
of the text. So of course, in literature, there's no right and there's no wrong.
No, there's no right, there's no wrong answer.
So you are argue the text based on your understanding. But let me also say this for the purpose of those who may not be doing
literary analysis,
and who may not be doing a library-based or
research.
A close reading. For example, like what I'm doing, basically, my research involves ethnography, right? It involves going to the field to get data, primary data. It involves going to the creeks, right, to get. I'm working on pollution, right? How it affects the psychic of people, right? Of
living in polluted environment.
Yes, yeah. So I'm looking at the lived experiences of people who are traumatized by environmental pollution. So it involves part of the methodology. It involves you going to the creeks.
Yes, the field.
The field to interview people, interview people who are directly affected by those pollution, right?
Yeah.
It also involves you taking pictures, photographs as a proof, as evidence of what has happened to this place. It could be photos of farmland that has been ravaged by pollution. It could be water that has been ravaged by oil spillage. It could be even people who are sick, right? So you go to the field, you interview people, you take pictures, you do videos, right? You administer questionnaires, and
those are data for analysis.
Yes, these are data. These are ethnographic data, and it goes beyond that too. There's also another thing we're also trying to do, still on ethnography. We're also trying to bring in what we call sensory perception, right? For example, if I am interviewing you about what happened in your village, about the pollution, now I'm not just analyzing what you are saying. I'm also looking at the paralinguistic features. I'm looking at your expression, right? I'm also looking at your environment. So we call it a smell, a sight, and touch. So the things you can see, the things you can perceive. For example, if you are if you are in a polluted environment, right? Automatically you can perceive the smell of the smell of crude oil. Right? The smell of crude oil, or maybe even the smell of dead whatever fishes or
around
animals.
The water bodies.
So these are part of what we call sensory perception. And guess what? When you include sensory perception in ethnographic research, I bet you'll be shocked. Some of the things that will come out.
I think somebody did something like that, and then the Money Woman is a particular tribe where they give children art in marriage, and because the parents are indebted. So if you had people like that in general, we were in a conference, and it stole the show because people were like, wow, we are seeing vivid images.
Wow.
We have looked at the background, we have looked at the objective, research question, methodology. I think there's the theories. Another important thing is all these areas we have mentioned in your oral defense, and just say them in the next 5 minutes. Because you have basically 10 to 15 minutes. And so, but when you come to the next thing, I call it your findings, your discussions, findings, your analysis. So that's what do you find that? Like your findings, the next aspect in your oral defense is your conclusion. So you must give a good opening and a powerful closing. And then, in your ending, you must be able to apply your research to the point that it is beneficial for us, to the writer, to the readers, and to the future research.
And even to the generality of the public.
And the public.
Because you do not do research in a vacuum, right? And guess what? Every research is done towards helping society.
Exactly.
So it's not just an academic exercise for scholars to read alone.
No.
Because it is done with the intention of bettering society, for the betterment of society. So your research should be, if possible, should be understood by the layman on the street. You should be able to pick it and say, "Oh, wow, this is beautiful. This is what I am taking."
I think that brings to the layer of language. Your language must be simple, concise, and straightforward. Leave the flowery language for the Shimamandas, for the Wolesho
and leave the jargon.
Leave the jargon for the Bottle Park boys. So I'm so grateful, Mr. Idafe, and then this is your French coach, of course, and we just discuss how to go about your oral defense. We'll see you in the next video. Don't have a wonderful time. Just one more thing for them.
It has been a pleasure meeting you, coming into your room and giving us access to your room. It has been a pleasure. I hope to see you soon, if he allows me.
All right, so make sure you subscribe and share the video with all your friends.
Keep liking and keep commenting.
Share, let it go viral.
Let's keep
and then
comments.
We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you.